Today, we're diving into a topic that honestly feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's way closer to reality than you might think. We're talking about neuroprivacy. It's really the battle for the last frontier of privacy, your own mind. And the research we're breaking down today shows exactly why this is a conversation we absolutely need to be having right now. So let's just jump right in with the huge question that this research forces us to ask. We've always believed our thoughts are our own private space, right? But what happens when technology can not only knock on that door, but pick the lock and walk right in? Okay, but before we can even begin to answer that, we really need to get on the same page about what we're actually discussing here. Because this isn't just some philosophical idea anymore. It's a field of technology that is growing incredibly fast. So, what is neuroprivacy? Well, at its core, it's the right to keep your brain data, your thoughts, your feelings, all that neural activity, private and totally under your control. And think about this. This isn't just data about you. In a very real sense, it is you. And look, if you're picturing some clunky helmet in a sci-fi lab, the research we're looking at says we need to update that image and fast. This is not about some distant future. This is about earbuds, glasses, and wellness headbands that you can go out and buy right now. All right, so how does this tech actually work? I mean, how do we get from the little electrical signals zipping around in our brains to data that someone can actually read and, well, use? You know, the journey to get to this point has been shockingly fast. 100 years ago, we were just figuring out how to detect brainwaves with the very first EEGs. But today, as this research shows, AI can decode those super complex signals into actual images and words. That speed, that acceleration, that's the key to this whole story. So the process, as the research lays it out, is basically a three-step recipe. First, a wearable device collects your neural signals. Then, step 2, super powerful AI algorithms comb through that data looking for patterns. And then, step 3, those insights get used for something. And it's that final step, the use. That's where the privacy risks just explode. So we've got the what and we've got the how, but now we get to the most important part. Why does this matter right now? What's the so what factor that takes this from a cool tech headline to a real-world everyday concern? Okay, this next number is probably the single most shocking statistic from all the data. 75%. That is the percentage of consumer neurotech devices with privacy policies so vague or weak that they could allow for the extraction of your brain data. 3 out of 4 devices have a door to your mind, and the locks are often incredibly flimsy. And to put that number in perspective, just look at this comparison. We already talk a lot about data privacy with health apps and social media, right? But the data shows that the neurotech industry has even fewer protections in place. It's basically the Wild West, but for our most personal data. This quote from an expert in the field just gets right to the heart of it all. The decisions we make right now about this technology will define mental autonomy. I mean, the very freedom to have a private thought for generations. So, are we actually ready for a world of brain transparency? So, where could all this data actually end up? Well, the research points to a few major areas. It could be used to set your insurance rates, to make hiring decisions at work, or even in legal cases. Heck, it could create ads that are hyper-targeted based on your subconscious emotional reactions. This isn't just data, it's leverage. And this isn't just theoretical. Here's a concrete example from a workplace study. A company rolled out this tech and saw a 15% jump in productivity. Great, right? But that gain came at a massive cost to the employees. Their privacy score absolutely plummeted, and their stress levels almost doubled. Is that a trade-off we're willing to make? So understanding where we are today is one thing, but the source material also gives us a glimpse into the future. Where is all of this technology and policy actually heading? You know, the research doesn't predict one single future. Instead, it lays out this huge fork in the road. 2 very, very different paths we could go down. And the critical thing to get is that the direction we choose is a choice we are actively making right now, whether we realize it or not. So here are those 2 futures, side by side. On the left, a path toward what's called digital mental sanctuaries, where we use laws to create protected mental spaces. But on the right, we could end up in an open-mind economy, where our very thoughts are just another product to be packaged up and sold. The difference between those two is just immense. Okay, so let's boil all of this down to 3 key things to remember.
First, our old ideas about privacy just aren't enough anymore. We have to establish that mental privacy is a fundamental right. Second, this isn't a problem for the future. That 75% statistic proves the risk is already here. And finally, the future isn't written in stone. The choices we make can and will steer us toward a better path.
Which brings us to the final question this whole thing leaves us with. As our minds connect more and more to our devices, are we building bridges to better health and a better future? Or are we accidentally building cages for our own thoughts? The choice is ours to make. Thanks for joining us.